is a CP24 Live Eye truck. It's actually stuck to the building. I like this. This is really super.
Hi, this is Kemi from Communications.com. We're here live at CityTV in Toronto, Canada. CityTV, of course, brings you city news in CP24, and it's like the CNN of Toronto to me, you know. I am here to interview the weather specialist for CityTV, City News, Nalini Sharma, and she's here with me, here in the newsroom. The first question I'm going to be asking you today, of course, you know the website. We had you as the media hottie of the week. Yeah. A lot of my readers, you know, talk about you. They like, you know, something about weather coverage. Some people will just watch it for the anchor or the reporter, you know. What are they wearing? How are they seeing the weather? Do they go out? And you know, if you can't see it, you can't track it. Anyhow, my first question for you, even though you know this is Comet's breaking news, Nalini, around the United States, there's a lot of weather-related things going on. Let's talk about the fires in California. That's a weather phenomenon, you know. Can you describe your experience to me as a weather specialist in the field of meteorology? You know, this is a profession formerly dominated by men. About 20 years ago, usually the weatherman, you know. Women are now into weather, meteorologists, weather specialists. This is what you are, a weather specialist. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, when I came to City TV about 6 years ago, it was a very different experience for me because I had done business programming prior, and now that when I joined the city, I didn't have a lot of weather experience, but I did take some courses and work with some meteorologists. I thought, okay, let me give this a try, and I found that now in the city of Toronto, I'm known as the weather girl, which I'm okay with. I'm very happy with that because I always say, I think I'm gonna, you know, put away my umbrella.
That's a good nickname.
Yeah, the weather girl, but I don't want to be known as the weather lady because that means you're old.
You're old, yeah. The weather lady.
I go,
girl.
yeah, and like the day they start calling me the weather lady, that's the day I'm done. I want to do something else. But yeah, you're right. In fact, right now, the other on-air personalities that we have two males, and they're both meteorologists, and they tend to have a bit more of a scientific background. Not a bit more, I mean much more. Whereas I think as a specialist, you look more like the common person. You know, is it going to rain? Is it going to snow? How's this going to affect me today? Do I have to water my lawn? That kind of thing. And then we have our meteorologists here who give you all the reasons as to why, what's happening now, weather-wise. So I think it's a good balance. And you're right, people watch television for a variety of reasons.
Yes.
Sometimes they watch for the personality, sometimes they watch solely for the information. So I would hope that people would watch me for some of the information, but I do realize that I do understand the nature of the business and that people may be watching because they like how I tie my scarf.
And you know what they say about television, looks matter. When I was in broadcasting school in Maryland, you know, my professor said, you know, looks matter more than what you even say out. You believe in that?
Yeah, I do. Looks do matter. It's a visual medium.
Yes.
But I think it's also what you define as looks. You know, you can be stick thin and be the typical anchor of what the you know, a news anchor, whether you do entertainment or whether you do straight news or you're a crime reporter, and have that as like, oh, that's the measure of you. But that's not necessarily true. I think, and my boss tells me this all the time, that if you're a good storyteller, you will have.
Let's see. You've produced and you've reported mainstream news, according to your bio on City News website. You have produced, you have done several programs, City Line. I read something that says 400 shows.
I did. I used to work for, he's now actually a Minister of Parliament in our government now, but he was, I don't know if you're familiar with Garth Turner.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, because he's always saying highly inappropriate things at times. Yes. But I worked with him for a number of years. There was a while where he came out of politics and he went into media, and he had a media company, and I worked for him at that time. And I will say that it was a very rewarding job, because it didn't matter that the shows weren't necessarily great shows. And I mean, I'm I'm mature enough to admit that the programming that we turned out wasn't necessarily always quality programming. And we did have to answer to our sponsors, people who paid money.
The advertisers.
To advertise on our program or to buy a spot on our show. So I never walk around saying like I was a serious journalist. I wasn't. I always felt like I was a television presenter. Very much the way they
always says, if you can't see it, you can't track it. My 7-year-old son is like, if you can't see it, you can't track it. All the ads are very, very convincing. Has there been a difficult weather situation that you couldn't track?
Not necessarily, because we do have the latest and greatest in terms of tools. Sometimes it is hard to perhaps paint the weather picture for people. Our radars are fantastic. What we have, our maps, our weather stations. We have weather stations around the GTA, so that gives you a really good sense of, you can check from east to north, I should say west to north to east, and usually our systems tend to move typically, west to east. That's our normal progression. So if you check the weather stations to the west, like let's say Mississauga, Oakville, for example, and you see that the pressure is starting to fall, the humidity is starting to rise, you can think, okay, well, and you're looking at your radar and you're seeing rain starting to approach. You know that by in the next hour or two, whichever, depending on how the system's moving, you're going to hit
stations.
Yeah.
So
we've added more.
You have more?
We have more. They're not up and running, but probably by the time this airs, we'll have it all.
I have a question to you about the competition. Of course, there are the local stations. Have you ever thought of working on a national network level? Now, in the United States, you have CNN, Fox News, ABC, CBS, and NBC. Here in Canada, on a national level, you're talking about CBC, I guess, or even some of the bigger networks. Have you ever just felt like you're a local news person?
I think it's very typical being a local news person. I think you always sort of think, you know what, I'm going to the States. I'm going to be the best thing that United States has ever seen.
CNN.
And I'm going to make it big there. And some people do. They pack them a bag, they get an agent, and the agent gets them a job, and you know what? You never see them again. You never see them on a network, you never see them on a show, you never see them on local news. And I mean, whenever I travel to the States, I always make a point of watching the local news. Like, I love watching the local news to see how they cover stories and how, their anchors present themselves and how their weather people present themselves. I find it's like a little hobby, right? So, but I never see anybody that's left here with the big dream that they're going to the States and they're going to there's a handful of people that have made it to that, like, recognition, where you can turn on a mainstream station here in Canada from the States and see somebody that, hey, you used to be on the CBC, or I think she started off like, way back.
John Roberts.
Yeah, like, I mean, there's a few people that they do get to that level. So the markets are very different.
It's different.
And I always like to say that I compare it to being, a small fish in a very big pond when you go to the United States. So you can still be in the market, but you're going to be one of a million people wanting to be on television or on television. And here in Toronto, you're like a big fish in a small pond.
Yes.
Right? So it's really what your cup of tea is. I think you take opportunities that come your way when it feels right.
It's a lot of competition over there.
There's a lot of competition. And
competition is good. I mean, what do you think?
I think competition is very good, and I think you get sometimes you get complacent. Like, oh, I'm the weather girl. I'm fine. I can be the weather girl for the next 10 years.
Yes.
And it's no big deal.
I know
but
what you mean.
It is good to keep your skills fresh and to think of other things that would keep you passionate about your work and having that connection with the viewers. And yet at the same time, sometimes viewers don't want to see you any other way.
You're right about that.